You don't make any decisions. I'm Joseph. This is Input English. Today I have an interesting discussion. Of course, the purpose of the Input English channel is to provide comprehensible input for English language learning. By understanding these stories and discussions, you will absorb the English language. That's the way it works. Today's discussion is a fun one. It's about connecting the dots. So let's start by exploring that expression. I've used it before in other videos. That phrase has had an interesting journey over many decades. In the early 20th century, there were children's magazines or children's publications for entertaining children called Connect the Dots or Join the Dots. They were in a format similar to comic books. Each page had a lot of dots on it, and at first glance you couldn't tell what pattern the dots formed. Next to each dot there was a number, and so the child, using a pencil, would go from number 1 to number 2, and then from number 2 to number 3, and would thus connect the dots with pencil-drawn lines. And over time, those lines would show the child the pattern that was a picture. That way the child could discover what that pattern of dots represented. After quite a few strokes, the child might discern that the pattern was a duck, or a dog, or a car. Many different objects were depicted in these puzzles. So if you said connect the dots in the early to mid 20th century, people would think that you were referring to this comic book format entertainment device for children, the puzzles called Connect the Dots. Over time, the phrase connect the dots started being used metaphorically. When used metaphorically, the phrase connect the dots meant looking at a pattern and figuring out what it means. Later still, Steve Jobs of Apple Computers added a great deal of popularity of this expression because of a quote attributed to him. What Steve Jobs said was that you can only connect the dots looking backward. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. Now in 2025, it is fairly common to hear someone refer to connecting the dots, and consistent with Steve Jobs' observation, they're almost always talking about developing an understanding of previous observations. So that's where my discussion is going to go today. Looking back over the years, remembering things that I observed, now I can connect the dots quite a bit better. I started with a quote, "You never make decisions." That was something my wife said to me a number of years ago. At the time, I responded to what she had said, perhaps not in the most mature way. The choices available to me would be to ask her what she means by that and try to develop better understanding of the thoughts she was trying to convey. But instead, I chose to just contradict her. So when she said, "You never make any decisions," I said, "Sure I do." Now, fortunately, that didn't lead to a knockdown, drag-out fight. The reason is we never have that kind of conflict. One of the astonishing things about our marriage that we have each noticed is the lack of conflict. We don't get into fights. Now, the reason I remember that statement by her, "You never make any decisions," is it stuck out like a sore thumb. So there's a great expression. If something sticks out like a sore thumb, It's easily noticed, easily recognized. There's nothing subtle about a sore thumb. So when she said, "You never make any decisions," I found that unusual. We didn't get into great conflict about it. When I said, "Sure I do," she said, "No, you make decisions. You make big decisions, like whether to buy a house or whether to buy an airplane. But you never make any routine decisions. You won't choose what we will have for dinner or what we will do in the afternoon. You let me make all the routine decisions, and then you make all the big decisions." Again, this did not turn into a big brawl. We didn't fight about it. We just shared our observations. Not much was said about it after that for years. She said what was on her mind, and in general, I listened to her. While making videos for this channel, I read Roy Baumeister's book, Willpower. I have videos on that topic. In his book entitled Willpower, Baumeister explained to us that willpower is an ability that requires effort on our part, not physical effort, rather mental effort. Mental energy is expended to exert willpower. He went on to explain that the same energy, the same force, the same ability that we use to maintain willpower is used for other things. He specifically pointed out that self-control is a type of willpower. Self-control can be broken down into a variety of activities like resistance of temptation, regulating our behavior, focusing our attention, and regulating our thoughts. He then explained to us in his book that decision-making uses the same resources as does willpower. He showed in his research that willpower can be depleted by exerting a lot of self-control or making a lot of decisions. So now, as I look back to that era when my wife told me that I didn't make any decisions, I begin to connect the dots. I'm beginning to understand what that represented. At that time in my career, I was making a lot of decisions. I was not unique in that respect. A lot of people have jobs or careers that require them to make a lot of decisions, make a lot of choices. It's common for people to talk about how stressful their work is. And often when they talk about stress at work, they're talking about the requirement of them to make a lot of decisions or exert a lot of self-control. This is fatiguing. Now, this is not to say that my wife's life was devoid of decision-making or stress. No, we all have this in our lives. At that point in my career, I noticed the high level of decisions required of me. And it was indeed stressful. Now, we intuitively understood this. There were a couple of patterns of behavior that we exhibited at that same time that illustrate how we understood this. For instance, I would get home from work and she would say, "How was work?" And I might say, "Everybody took a bite and there's not much left." I had this mental image that everybody I encountered took a bite out of me and depleted my resources. This was not an expression I learned from anyone. That was an original expression coined at the time to describe the sensation of the work environment and the stress that I perceived. The other expression that we used with each other to prevent conflict was very much along the same lines, the same logic. When we got home, one of us might engage the other in a conversation that might require some decision making. In such a situation, it was common for the response to be, "I'm not home yet, let me get home." Of course, that was metaphorical or figurative, because indeed we were home, we were in the house together. But when one of us said, "I'm not home yet," what we meant was emotionally, "I'm not home yet. I haven't recovered from work." From a practical point of view, all it did was delay our interaction dealing with decisions that needed to be made. As I look back at that time, that stressful time, I have to marvel at how the two of us adapted. We did not know about Roy Baumeister's book. We didn't know that decision making was using the same resources which we needed for self-control. As I said, we came upon these solutions intuitively. We just seemed to understand that this was the way it should work. I look at those two adaptive behaviors as marriage savers. It prevented a lot of conflict. But there's more. As I am connecting the dots on this pattern of avoiding depletion of willpower by handling decisions in an adaptive way, we come to the topic of how I have dressed for the past couple of decades. Over time, I developed a habit of always wearing the same sort of clothes to work. At work, it was always a white shirt or a light pastel shirt that approximated a white shirt, a dress shirt. Always. I never wore a tie. It was never necessary at work. In terms of trousers or pants, I typically wore khaki-colored pants. Over time, this became the norm, and over time, there were very few exceptions to that pattern. It became a habitual uniform. At about the same time, I started taking classes in blacksmithing. Of course, when you're working in a forge, you don't wear a white shirt and dress pants. You wear grubby clothes. You wear things that you don't mind getting dirty. So I wore khakis and an old work shirt. When I got into the blacksmith shop, the instructor explained that we should only wear cotton clothing. We should not wear any synthetic clothing because synthetic clothing has a tendency to catch fire and could cause a lot of harm, but cotton clothing tends to not burn. It might scorch and it could catch fire, but it won't blaze. It won't contribute to the injury. Well, this made sense. At that time, I was working in the blacksmith shop a lot, and so I developed a pattern of wearing denim shirts and denim pants because they're 100% cotton. They met the criteria given to me by the blacksmith instructor. But this became a habit. Over a period of years during leisure time, I usually dressed in denim shirts and denim pants. It became my leisure uniform. Years later, I look back and I can observe that those patterns of behavior allowed me to conduct my day-to-day activities while making fewer decisions. If you have a standard pattern of getting dressed and you don't make a lot of choices, you don't make a lot of decisions. I've concluded that this was learned behavior because it decreased the number of decisions I needed to make each day. Now that it's a habit, I continue. Now, don't misunderstand that I'm trying to convince you that you need to adopt this pattern of behavior. Nonsense. You conduct your business the way you choose. A lot of people get a lot of enjoyment by dressing in interesting, enjoyable ways. Let's celebrate that. That is perfectly reasonable. I don't advocate that anyone else try to figure out what their uniform is and then only wear that. No, that would be nonsense. I'm just looking back at my old behavior, just like Steve Jobs said, looking back, we can connect the dots. It appears that I intuitively figured out a way to make fewer decisions each day. I really think that Steve Jobs was correct. I think if we look back in time and observe things that happened and behaviors that we demonstrated, we may be able to connect the dots and have a better understanding why these things happen. I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.